This regional convening takes place at a time of often great distress for promoters and defenders of democracy all the world over. In our own region, West Africa, the return of coups d'etat, marking the collapse of democratic projects in peer countries that once held great promise, has been a matter of great concern for all of us. And even in those countries, like Ghana, where democratic consolidation where democracy has consolidated and where we continue to enjoy unprecedented democratic peace and stability, Afrobarometer, the African-led Pan-African Research Network, reports growing dissatisfaction with democracy. In its July 2025 flagship report titled Citizen Engagement, Citizen Power, Afrobarometer delivers a sobering warning. Over 60%, that is more than 6 out of 10 Africans, say they are dissatisfied with how democracy works in their countries. Afrobarometer notes that while a good majority of everyday Africans continue to support and express a preference for democracy over its rivals, including one-man and military rule, that support has been softening over time as belief in democracy's effectiveness is fading among more and more Africans. Evidence from recent elections across Africa demonstrates that Afrobarometer's survey data and associated warnings are not to be brushed off lightly. The correlation between citizen dissatisfaction with democracy and voter appetite for regime change is a strong one. In Botswana, in Mauritius, in Ghana, and in South Africa, governing parties were routed in the polls in 2024. In each of these countries, Afrobarometer indicated, prior to the elections, massive drops in citizen satisfaction with democracy, from a decline of 40% in Mauritius and Botswana to a decline in voter satisfaction with democracy of 23% in Ghana. Fortunately, the turnovers in power in these stable electoral democracies took place within democracy. In more fragile democracies on the continent, however, similar dissatisfaction could well invite an anti-democratic outcome, particularly as Afrobarometer trend data also show previously high intolerance and rejection of military intervention weakening among Africans, especially among the youth. The drivers of this growing dissatisfaction with democracy are, of course, diverse. But dissatisfaction correlates strongly with feelings of exclusion, sharply dwindling trust in political institutions, and widespread perceptions of growing corruption. And here is where the financialization of politics enters the picture. Across Africa, the costs of waging a campaign for elective office are soaring. Some of the statistics in the Ghanaian context have been given to you by our MCs. In fact, I do not like to quote the numbers for Ghana because I think those who are actually the political insiders and who incur these costs might either laugh at us for grossly understating the numbers and therefore call into question our capabilities for research. I suspect that the numbers are significantly more than we report. Even in party primaries, even in the election of party executives, some of which are ongoing now in Ghana, some of the numbers that you hear are mind-boggling. Unregulated political financing allows wealthy elites, domestic cartels, and foreign interests to hijack political parties, and our elections. This marginalizes and locks out the broader electorate, including notably women, the youth, and many in the middle class, transforming democracies into systems that serve the highest bidder rather than the general good. The need to recover exorbitant campaign costs often drives elected officials to engage in systemic corruption and embezzle public resources, draining the national treasury, diverting funds from much-needed socioeconomic development and worsening poverty. When electoral processes become prohibitively expensive, it creates uneven playing fields that frequently lead to pre- and post-election violence. The perception that politicians are bought by special interests destroys public trust in parliaments, the judiciary, and the executive branches. This democratic deficit makes citizens susceptible to accepting or tolerating unconstitutional changes of governments, such as military coups. And these are not just national level concerns. They directly implicate the mandate of the AU and of our various recs. This convening is our collective response to this crisis. It brings together at this scale and at this level of leadership, leadership, government officials, researchers, practitioners, civil society advocates, electoral bodies, and institutional authorities that have been working, often in parallel and in collaboration, often in parallel and in isolation, on the many dimensions of this shared challenge. The African Union Advisory Board Against Corruption, the Open Society Foundations, Transparency International, and the Community of Practice on Political Finance in Africa are not merely partners in organizing this event. They are co-architects of a reform agenda whose time has come. In December 2025, the international community adopted UN Resolution 11.7, a dedicated multilateral commitment to transparency in the funding of political parties and electoral campaigns. Ghana was proud to co-table that resolution alongside Norway, Mongolia, and Albania, and 66 countries stood with us. The AU Advisory Board Against Corruption is now in the process of developing a continental model law to give that commitment some institutional force. And the community of practice assembled in this room was built precisely to sustain this work beyond any single event or declaration. The foundation has been laid. What this convening must build upon is to give it momentum and the political will to see the work through. Over the next 3 days, we will diagnose the problem in depth. We will explore solutions drawn from the experience of different countries, different institutions, and different constituencies. And on the final